So we have started the Jenkins server. So by this command from the command line. So this is a standalone mode. So we can deploy this WAR file in any of the application servers, so that from their application server URL you can access the Jenkins dashboard. So we have started in standalone mode. We can access. So we have started on port 8098. So this is the Jenkins dashboard. So for new item, from here we will create the job. So people, so we will see all the list of people because we did not configure any users. We don't see any of them. So build history, we can see the history of all the project builds. So manage Jenkins, this kind of administration part. So it will have different administration activities like system level configurations, setting up the security, installing plugins, all those things. So credentials, we will discuss this later. So now we started the Jenkins dashboard. Now we should set up a continuous integration for a project. So I will take a sample project. So this demo project is a sample project. So it's a Java project. So it has some Java source files and some test cases. And I have a build.xml, so which is a build script to generate my artifact. So artifact is nothing but the output of your build. So what you will be delivering to the user. So that will be generated from your build script. So this is my build script. So what it will do, so I think you all can understand this build script. So it will execute the default target first, and from here it will be calling the target with the OS information that is passed as a parameter to this. So I have two targets with OS names. So Linux, for now we are not doing anything here. Windows, it will do compile, test and generates the jar file. So this jar is my output folder, output artifact. So the output is getting generated inside the target folder. Similarly, when I run test, so it will execute if there are any automated unit test cases to verify my code. So those will be compiled and executed, and the test results will be placed inside target folder, inside test results folder. So this is my sample project structure. So where I kept my build.xml and my sources and my test cases. So I will go to command line and I will verify whether my build script is working fine or not. So you should have Ant installed on your machine. So I will be passing OS name as input parameter, so that in my build script it will call the target with the given OS. So it will execute this target and all its dependent targets. Now my build is successful, and it has generated the output of my project, this jar file, so in the target folder of my checkout location. So I have build script, and so what is the other thing that I need to have is my source code should be available in one of the source code management system. So I should commit this source code in source code management system. So I will take Visual SVN as my source code management system. So I have committed the source code here. So now I have my source code available in source code management system, and I have a proper build script to build. So now I am ready to set up the continuous integration for this project using Jenkins. So let us go to Jenkins dashboard. So to create a job or project in Jenkins, we will click on here. We will select the project type. So for Ant based build scripts, we will select freestyle. So if your build is happening using Maven, so you can select Maven project. So if you need to build under different environments or different configurations, you can select multi-configuration project. So now we will see the freestyle project. So I will be configuring the demo project. So once you create the project, the left side view changes to the project related view. So the project status you can see here. So what are the changes that are done in this project? So build now option is to manually invoke the build, and configure section you will see the configuration. So there are so many options, we will see those later. So we will see the first mandatory things that we need to configure. So the mandatory thing is, so for doing a build, so suppose if I ask you to do the build, so what are the questions you will ask? So where is the source code, and what is the build mechanism or build tool that is used to build the source code? So where is the build script to invoke? So those two are the mandatory things. So we can configure the source code management. So here it will list the default source code management system. Suppose if you are not using Subversion or CVS, if you are using JIT, so you need to install JIT plugin so that you can configure the JIT source code management details here. So we are using Subversion, we will configure the Subversion URL. I have some problems in resolving the machine name. I will just use my IP address. So I have given this URL and it is asking me the credentials. So I will enter the credentials. So username password authentication is configured with my subversion. So I have said that. So this is the URL of my source code. So if you have multiple modules, you can specify the multiple modules. Because we don't have multiple modules, it is just current one. So if you have multiple modules, you can specify the module name. So always we will check out complete source code. These options are not important. So checkout strategy. So we are not. So we wanted to do more builds. So what is your checkout strategy? So for the first build anyway we have to check out. So what we wanted to do from the next build onwards. So do you wanted to clean the complete workspace and check out it fresh again, or do you wanted to do only the S1 update which will take the latest changes from the repository? So that checkout strategy we will define here. So the most recommended one is the S1 update as much as possible. So if because normally the source code repository size might be big, so in such situations it's not recommended to do a fresh checkout each time, because the build server will be in a complete sandbox environment, so you need not worry about doing a fresh checkout all the time. So you can do S1 update. So the repository URL is different from the Jenkins URL. So source code management system is separate and Jenkins system is separate. So my source code management system is working on this port. So Jenkins system is working on this port. So now I said, so where is the source code? So next, how will I build the source code? So in the build section, configure. In the build section, I will configure all the details on how to build the project. So there are different types of builds that it is supporting. So YANT kind of thing, or Maven targets you can invoke, or execute a shell script, or execute Windows batch command. So these are the actions that you can perform at build level. So if you need any specific action that is not here, we will check in the plugins section. So what are the other actions? Is there any plugin that supports the different actions? Suppose if you need uh, a different build action that need to be performed, so you will go to the plugin section and the build section. So there you can see what are the other actions that is available. So if you find the needed one, you can install that plugin so that you will see the option here. So by default it will be giving these four options. So Windows batch command and executing shell script and invoking AND target and Maven target. So is that clear, Sirisha? So because our build script is AND based build script, we will invoke the AND. So the target that we used to invoke the build script is, so this is the target that we target or parameter that we used. This is the invocation of the target. If you wanted to use it as a parameter, so you will use like this. So this will also be the same effect. So here it is calling the default target with OS. So earlier case it is directly invoking the target, clean and all. So now we can invoke the target, or so you can specify the properties. So build file, by default it will take the build.xml. You need not specify if the build file is build.xml. If you don't specify anything, it will take the build.xml. So if it is other than build.xml, you will specify the build file name here. So if you wanted to pass any other properties, you can pass here. Suppose if you wanted to, if you are facing some issues, if you wanted to run the build in a debug mode, you can just pass the debug property here. So we have configured the build step. So this is simple. What is the build script that needs to be invoked, and if there are any specific targets that needs to be invoked, you can specify. So if you don't specify any target, it will by default invoke the default target. So is that clear? Are you able to follow? Okay. So we set up the source code details, source code management system details, and we set up the build details. So once the build is done, so what is that your expectation? So you wanted to see some artifact that can be downloaded and used. So in the post build actions, we can configure that. So how to archive the generated artifacts, and which made available for the download from the dashboard. So we'll configure the archive artifacts in the post build actions. So there are so many different post build actions, we will see later. So our jar file is generated inside target folder of my checkout directory, and this is the output. So I will give the relative path relative to the checkout location, and I will be saving the configuration. So my mandatory parameter setting is done in the configuration. So now I will invoke the build. So this is build configuration. So we haven't yet set up the continuous integration. So we are able to do the build from Jenkins dashboard. So we have triggered the build. So build number 1 is running. So we will see, we will click on the build number. So left side options, you will see the build specific options. So these are the options related to build number 1. So you can see the console output. So what is happening? So it did a fresh checkout because it is the first time build. So it did a fresh checkout from the URL and it started doing the build. So our build is successful. So if you go to the status of the build, so the build is successful. So this blue color icon represents that build is successful. And this is the artifact of my output of my build. So this can be downloaded and used by the users. So if you have multiple artifacts, you can configure the multiple artifacts that needs to be archived. So now we will come to the test results. So we have the build, but I have some automated test cases. They are executed. I wanted to see those reports. So where can I see those reports? So in the post build actions, so I can publish the JUnit test result reports. So by default, Jenkins will give you with the JUnit test result reports publishing. So if you are using different type of test frameworks, you need to install the corresponding plugin. So test results will be inside my target test results. So because suppose if you go to demo project, so this is my build generated output. So it has jar file and test results will be inside my test results folder. So it has different. So for example, here we have two test cases. There might be thousands of test cases. So we can publish the report by specifying the location of your test results. So star.xml means it will take all the files in the test results folder. So if you wanted to specify some particular pattern, you can specify. So by default, we would like to publish all the test reports. So you can specify the patterns, like suppose if I wanted to publish only the test results which starts with test. So you can specify the pattern like this. And I will be saving these details and invoking the build again. So if you look at the build output, so this time it is not doing the checkout completely and it try to take the update. So because the checkout strategy is S1 update, not the complete checkout each time. So we wanted to publish the test results reports. So for this build, the test results were published. You can see the test results. So there are total 11 tests, 0 failures. So if you can go to the project view, in the status you can always see the latest build details. So what is the latest build happened and what are the test results out of that. So this workspace, here you can just browse through your workspace source code. So here we have configured the test results. So we wanted to publish the test results reports to the Jenkins dashboard. So for that we need to configure where my test result reports. So these test cases are executed as a part of my build script. So in build script, so this JUnit test cases, so I am using the JUnit task to execute those test cases. So, and the test results I will be putting inside the test results folder. So for showing these results in the Jenkins dashboard, we need to configure that somewhere. Okay, these are the test results, please publish it in the dashboard. So those configuration we can do in the post build actions. So there is action called publish JUnit test result report. So you just need to give the details of where your reports and save. So you will be able, once the build is done, so it will try to show you the test reports that are generated during your build. So is that clear, Santoshi? So now we are doing the builds manually. So where is the automatic builds that will happen? So in the project configuration, there is one more section called build triggers. So there are different types of triggers available. So whenever this event happens, so it will automatically start the build. So there are three different things. Build after other projects are built. Suppose if I have a different project, I will just create another project. So I have just created this base project. I will not be giving any configuration here. So I will go to demo project configuration. So in the build trigger section, build after other projects are built. So I will just give the base project. So after building the base project, I wanted to build the demo project automatically. So if the base project build is stable, then only you build this demo project automatically, otherwise don't build it. So those kind of configuration you can do it. So if it is unstable means if build is successful but the tests associated with that are failed is unstable. So even the build fails, you wanted to continue the demo project build. So this is one kind of event that you can configure to trigger the build automatically. So now I will run the build on base project. So it will in turn invoke the build on the demo project. So when I link the projects like this, when I create the dependencies between the projects like this, so this demo project will be the downstream project of the base project. Means downstream project means, so in the stream it will be in the down. So once the base project is built, so the demo project will be built. Similarly, the demo project is, for the demo project, base project is the upstream project because this project is built after the base project is built. So if you go to the build, so you will see the here in the details, so who started this build. So if we manually invoke, so started, you will see this message. So if it is invoked by some event, so you can see that message here. So here this build is triggered by the upstream project build. So the base project build number 1 causes the build number 3 to happen in the demo project. So like this we can link the projects. So similarly you can link in the post build actions also. Suppose if I have another project, I wanted to run that project after the demo project is built. So in the demo project post build actions, I can invoke that project build. So you can just give that project name, so it will invoke that project build. So this is called upstream projects and downstream project configure. That is nothing but linking the projects. So with in case of dependencies. So is that clear? Are you able to follow? So any questions till now? Okay. So I hope no questions. You understood. So there is another build triggers, that is schedule. So we can schedule the builds to happen a particular period of time. So to specify schedule, so the pattern they have defined is this pattern. So we need to specify the minutes, hours and day of the month. So this is the pattern that we need to use. Suppose if I wanted to run the build, normally the scheduled builds will happen during the night because it will take time. So suppose if I wanted to run the build during night 9:30, so in the minute section I will put 30. So in the hour section we will give what is, so 24 hours time. So we will give 9 means 21. So day of the month. So which day of the month you wanted to run? So that is first to 31 days. So you can run on specific days like 1st and 5th, or you can run the whole month. So you can just specify the star. Star means it will run all the days of the month. So which month you wanted to run? So if I wanted to run only first 5 months, I will just say 1 to 5. So if I wanted to run all months, so we will run star here. So which days of the week? So all days of the week I can specify star. If I wanted to run only during weekdays, so I will specify 1 to 5. So like this we can specify the pattern. So minutes, hours and which day of the month, all those things. So this is how we can specify the schedule. So the schedule that we have configured run, so during the weekdays, so all months, so every day of the month 9 to 9:30, 9:30 it will execute. So is that clear? So you will get better understanding of how different ways that I can use this schedule configuration. You can go through this very simple explanation. So the another kind of build trigger is the poll SEM. So it will continuously poll the source code management system and it will check for the modifications, and it will, if there are any modification found, it will start the build. So at what intervals it should check the source code management system. So that interval will be configured with the same schedule pattern. So the schedule pattern that we have configured there, is the same schedule pattern we will use here for configuring the intervals. Suppose if I wanted to run check for every hour, so I can specify every hour at fifth fifth minute. I can specify like this. So remaining all our stars means every day, every month, every week, whenever it is. So first one is minutes, means the fifth minute of every hour I wanted to check, means this is hourly. So if I wanted to check for every 5 minutes, I can specify like this, means every 5 minutes of an hour it will check. So if I wanted to run at every minute, I will say star star, and I will save. So now I have configured the poll SCM trigger for my build triggers, so that I can see this subversion polling log. So this polling will run every minute to check the source code management system if there are any changes found. So if the change is found, it will run the build automatically. So now I will make some changes to my source code. So I will make changes that will make the build fail. I will just remove the data type definition, and I will make one more change which will cause the test cases fail. So developer can do these changes to the source code. So whenever the changes happened, so the continuous integration system should identify the changes, and it should build and it should validate, so that it will give faster feedback that okay, something is mistake, so something causes the build failure. So this is a kind of alarming system. So it has run the polling last minute, it did not find any changes, so it did not trigger the build. So we will wait for the next minute. Okay, so in this minute poll it found some changes and it started the build. So if you go to the build, so this build is started by the source code management change. So if you go to the changes section, you can see what are the changes that were. So this red means the build is failed. So you can go to the changes section, you can see what are the changes that were happened or which causes the build failure. So at this revision somebody changed this file, so for this reason, and this file is modified so that we can identify the, we can minimize the scope to identify the issue. So what is the reason for build failure? I can go to the console output and I can see, okay, the build is failed because of some compilation error, some identifier is expected. So which is a immediate feedback. So I want, but the build is failed, but I am not looking at the dashboard. So how do I know the build is failed? So if there is some mail communication, so I might be keep checking my mails frequently. So if something mail I receive, so I can act on this build failure. So we can configure the mail should be sent to the concerned person in case of build failure. So to set up a mail, so we need to provide the details of the mail server. So this mail server details are common to all the projects. They are not specific to this project. So if you are a company, in your company all projects, so your mail server is one, so all projects will share those mail server details. So those kind of common settings we will set up in a configure system of the manage Jenkins section. So whatever is common to all projects we will configure here. So we will come to the remaining properties later. So the required ones we will see. So I wanted to configure the mail server details. So I will use Gmail's mail server details. Those are smtp@gmail.com. So if I don't specify any email suffixes in the mail, it will use this suffix. So use SMTP authentication. So we need to give the access credentials. So I will be giving my details. So you can test configuration by sending mail. I think some problem with this configuration. So give me 2 minutes. I will just this used to work earlier. Okay, I will check out this issue today. In tomorrow's session, we will look at the mail sending. So the mail notification part we will see in the tomorrow's session. Yeah, let's stop here for today. So any questions in what we have discussed till now? So we have configured a project. So we have specified the source code management details and how to do the build and how to archive the artifacts and how to publish the test results to the Jenkins dashboard. And we have seen the different types of build triggers. So is there any questions on these topics? Okay. So let us meet in the tomorrow's session. Thank you very much.